Hi, this is Lauren Sanek at Home Seller Homebuyer Podcast. This episode's sponsor is Castle Dream Real Estate. If you're interested in buying or selling property in the greater Tampa, Florida area, you can learn more at their website at castledreamrealestate.com or email them at info@castledreamrealestate.com and also let them know you heard about them on the Home Seller Homebuyer Podcast. Castle Dream Real Estate is bringing you Home Seller Episode 18, Questions a Buyer Considers Before Making an Offer. Okay, let's get started with the questions a buyer considers before making an offer. Today, buyers do more legwork than any other generation of home buyers on everything from mortgage rates and programs to neighborhoods and schools to comparables for the home they want, because so much of this information is freely and easily accessed online. But none of that information diminishes the anxiety around making the final decision on what number to ink onto the offer for a home. In fact, this inundation of information can shift a normally sane buyer into overwhelm and overload and actually interfere with smart decision making. The first one is, how close, similar are the comps? And what story do they tell? The agent should present you with recent sales prices of similar homes near the target home. This information in conjunction with the listing price should begin narrowing down the thoughts of what an offer price or in a ballpark range of what should be made. But once it's time to pin down a precise offer dollar amount, it behooves the buyer to look beyond the sales prices of the comparables and to work with the agent to flesh out the story and what implications that story has for their own offer. In particular, they'll want to look at listing details, even photos of comparable properties. They want to take a look at the property that you've targeted beyond the basic specs. If a home has the same number of beds, baths, square feet, etc. They also look for the bigger picture story, the comps that are telling them that. Did all the most recent similar comps sell for more or less than the asking price? If they all sold for 5 to 10% over or under asking, that suggests a direction that the buyer needs to move from the list price. How long did it take for the properties to sell? And how long is your target property been on the market? If everything sells in 30 days, and the house you're trying to buy has been on the market for 75 days, the takeaway might be that you can be more aggressive in offering a price below the asking than you might have if the property has only been on the market for 20 days. I can't emphasize enough how critical it is to collaborate with an agent when it comes to gathering this fuller picture and story from the data on recently sold neighborhood properties and applying it in the course of selling an offer price. What kind of shape is the place in? Fixer-upper homes may not qualify for low down payment FHA financing. That can force them to come up with a larger down payment or evaluate the feasibility of obtaining a rehabilitation loan. On the other hand, if you had planned to put a large amount of your cash savings down on a home that needs a lot of fixing, you might want to conserve some to fund the repairs. In these cases, it's very helpful to review any disclosures or reports the seller has made available. It's also essential to include your mortgage broker in the offer price setting conversation, as condition issues might impact the loan programs available and thus the down payment, closing costs, and monthly payment required at a given offer purchase price. I've seen buyers that had planned to buy a fixer shift their offer price upwards because they knew a home was in move-in condition and vice versa. People who had planned to buy a non-fixer-upper coming down on their target price to fit the rehab loan guidelines and or conserve down payment cash and redirect it to post-closing repairs. It's wise to have a quick conversation with the lender before you decide upon your final offer price in any event, but it's particularly necessary if the place has obvious condition issues. What's the competition like? If you've ever watched an auction on television, you might often get a glimpse into the difference between making an offer on a home where you're the only buyer and making an offer on a home when there are one or two others vying to get it. And that difference can usually be measured in thousands of dollars. It's simple but profound truth. If you know there are other buyers competing for a property, you'll likely want and need to offer more for it than you would if the players were limited to just you and the seller. And the more buyers that are bidding, generally speaking, the higher the victorious offer price is likely to be. How will you know what your competition is like? Ask the agent. and they'll likely give the listing agent a ring, let them know you're serious about making an offer, and feel them out whether there is competition or not and how fierce it is. The most frequently asked questions I get about how this works is, don't listing agents just lie and say there are more offers than there are? It's possible, but improbable. Every agent knows that some buyers can't or won't bid more than the asking on a given home. Accordingly, every listing agent I know would rather have a sure offer from a buyer who loves the place than risk running that buyer off by fabricating multiple offers that don't exist. How much do you want it? Your personal desire and motivation level to get a particular property is an absolute must to factor into the offer price decision-making mix, especially when you get close to putting a final number of dollars and cents on the table. Of course, your home is an asset and a major investment, so your offer price is the decision about what you want to be smart, logical, and deliberate. But we're just talking about the place that will serve as the backdrop and environment for your everyday life and your family's lives too. To ignore the emotional impact and logistical implications of the place you live when you're deciding what to offer is to make the decision based on an incomplete portfolio of information. And that's also how so many buyers who lose properties end up regretting their offer price, wishing they had offered just a smidge more for that one that got away, sometimes for years on end. The need to tweak your offer price based on your motivation level within the range of what you can afford is particularly true when it comes to multiple offer situations. Would you regret it if another buyer got the place at X price? Then you should offer X price. Would you be disappointed but totally comfortable with knowing that you offered as much as the place was worth to you if the seller turned your offer at Y price? The price at which you can answer that question with a yes is a good boundary for the absolute max you should offer. When you are actively bidding in multiple offer situations, you might never get the opportunity to nudge your price upwards or go back and forth with the seller. Asking yourself these questions can help you pinpoint your precise best offer so you can make it, then let the chips fall where they may without regrets. How flexible is the seller on the asking price? If you insult the seller with a lowball offer, you could lose your shot at the house. To avoid offending the homeowner, ask the seller's agent how firm the seller is on the price. You can have this conversation directly with the seller's agent or have your agent ask the question. Keeping it in terms of how flexible are they on price instead of how much less will they take allows you to feel out the situation without offending the seller. Not every seller will be willing to bargain, so if your strategy is to make lowball offers, plan to make offers on several properties before you connect with a seller who will deal. A question that often goes in hand is a seller willing to help with closing costs. On foreclosed homes, a seller's contribution to closing costs certainly is common with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac because they want to sell their properties, and sellers who have equity in their property want to help and are helping. What can you truly afford? No, really. It's not that you haven't asked yourself this question. Work through your monthly financials, pour over the numbers with your mate, your financial planner, and your mortgage broker. It's more that a lot of time can elapse between that deep financial dive and the time you actually have to decide how much to offer on a particular home. And at that time, lots of variables might have changed, such as interest rates may have changed up or down. You might have decided you need to move your price range up because you can't find anything that works in a lower range. You might have realized you need to offer more than the asking price due to the competition. Your expenses may have changed because you had to put a child in daycare or start some new service up. Your cash cushion might have changed because you had to repair your car or fix something at your existing house. Your cash needs might have changed as you realize the home you're trying to buy needs a lot of work that will take a lot of cash. What's wrong with this house? One of the things that's happening now is that every house is in perfect condition. The sellers really want to get rid of the properties, but some are failing to disclose any real problems. Take the direct approach and say, is there a problem with this house? It's important reminding the sellers that with inspections and disclosures, chances are you'll find any problems. So if the sellers just get it out in the open, they'll avoid wasting your time and theirs. Some sellers' agents recommend a home inspection before putting it on the market. If one has been done, ask to read it. Some states, such as Texas, mandate disclosure forms in which sellers have to reveal any issues or problems with the house. In that type of situation, the disclosure not only provided information, but also would start a dialogue between the seller and the buyer to learn what the problem was and if it had been fixed, and in the end, it may not even be a big deal. Is the home in a floodplain? Living in a floodplain can require flood insurance, which can affect the cost of living in the house. Be sure to ask if the home is in a floodplain. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, posts free online maps that show you if your home is to be in a floodplain, or you can use their website, which is on our site. By just entering your address, you get the base flood line elevation. It doesn't hurt to double check with the county and talk with your property agent too. If you discover that your home is in a floodplain, you need to know what type of floodplain. Some ratings indicate higher risk than others, and how much flood insurance will cost. One way to find out, ask to see the seller's flood insurance bills. Once you have some information, you can weigh your options. Can you afford any additional costs that might be associated with this type of floodplain? Are you still comfortable with the property? In most cases, it may be possible to assume the seller's flood policy. Will the lender allow a short sale if this is a short sale property? In a short sale, the bank allows the property to be sold for less than the amount of the outstanding mortgage. If the seller's bank doesn't give its consent, the short sale can't happen. But some sellers simply decide to list the property as short sale before even talking with their lender. These sellers don't realize that the financial situations might not meet the lender's criteria for short sales. So even if the buyer and seller settle on a price without the bank's permission, there won't be a deal. That's why when a home is advertised as a short sale, the buyer's agent should ask whether the lender has agreed to allow the home to be sold for less than the outstanding mortgage. Find out if there has been any communications with the lender, and will the lender allow the short sale if it has been approved or put in the process of doing a short sale. If the buyer has gotten permission for a short sale, what was the bank's reasons for granting it? Does that reason sound plausible? Divorce, job, loss, transfer, and are banks typically granting short sale requests in that situation? Are any foreclosures for sale in the area? It's the question sellers and their agents hate. Are foreclosed homes for sale nearby? Foreclosures usually cost less, and that has to figure into your buying decision. It always makes sense to ask if there are any houses for sale in the neighborhood. In today's world, you should ask if these are also foreclosure sales. With foreclosures in the neighborhood, you can assume there will be a lot of price competition and you may offer less money. Do you have the paperwork for the mechanical systems and the other items? You should ask for receipts and documentation about the home's appliances and mechanical systems. It's something you don't have that much control over, but it is good to have. If the seller replaced the air conditioner shortly before putting the home on the market, but didn't save the paperwork, without documentation, the new buyers won't have a lot of options when something malfunctions. Without knowing who sold the air conditioner, and if it's under warranty, the buyer will have to pay out of pocket even if it's still under warranty because they don't know who put the system in. If the seller does pass along all documentation, even like on a home's hardwood floors, then the new owners, if they want to install the same hardwood floor in a hallway or an office, they would have the information needed to get the exact match. Make sure about other items that may be important to you also. Neighborhood information and amenities, schools, local amenities. Test your commute. Home inspection is part of the offer. Total housing payment besides the principal and interest. Remember that there are real estate taxes, homeowners association dues, possibly CDDs, community development district fees, any required maintenance fees for the property, homeowners insurance, any other catastrophic insurance that may be required like flood insurance, hurricane, wind damage, utility bills, miscellaneous other fees or expenses. Throughout the course of a house hunt, it's not all bizarre to experience price range creep. The best practice is to walk through the comps with your agent, determine their story, get as much information as you can about your competition and the home's condition, and get clear about how much you want the place. Then just before you finalize your offer price, touch base with your mortgage broker or banker and tell them what you're planning to offer. Ask them to give you an updated set of numbers, including what your down payment and monthly payment and cash to close would look like at that price, based on today's interest rate. Add the other expenses, then decide what to do. Remember, The offer made on the home is based on what the market presently is for the home. The offer is not based on all the other items that make up the entire home expense budget. Those items are to help you decide if you are in a comfortable price range for the home you want to purchase. Thank you for listening to Home Seller Episode 18, Questions a Buyer Considers Before Making an Offer. We are grateful for the time you have taken to listen to this podcast and look forward to your input on what you would like to hear about in future podcasts. You can find the show notes at homesellerhomebuyer.com. You can leave your questions, suggestions, and comments there, or email us at info@homesellerhomebuyer.com. Also, don't forget to check out this episode's sponsor, Castle Dream Real Estate, at their website at castledreamrealestate.com if you're interested in buying or selling property in the greater Tampa, Florida area, or email them at info@castledreamrealestate.com, and also let them know you heard about them on the Home Seller Home Buyer podcast. Tell your family, friends, and coworkers about Home Seller Home Buyer. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to the Home Seller Home Buyer podcast, and catch us on the next episode. Thank you for listening so you can stay informed.